Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. Delegates at this year's Mining Indaba were invited to partner South Africa in its quest to build the mining industry of the future, showing that Africa's time has come. Mining Weekly editor Martin Creamer tells us more. Welcome, Martin.
Thanks, Shannon.
Now, Minerals Minister Susan Shabangu made a strong plea for the mining industry to fully back the National Development Plan. Can you tell us more about that?
This National Development Plan has become the rallying point. This National Development Plan has become the boat in which they all protect, they want to get into that boat. So this is the point of unity, no matter where you're coming from. You know, you saw Susan Shabangu back the NDP, the National Development Plan. Now she's in government. Then you saw Cynthia Carroll in her speech, business, also backing the idea of getting firmly behind the National Development Plan. And even someone who was further out, Mampela Rampela, she said this is the first ever thing we must get behind the National Development. So that's the point of unity for South Africa. You know, they're in these rough seas on their own, but they can climb into this boat, and everyone agrees with that. So we've never had this in South Africa before, where you've got a common platform from which to work. And although they're all shouting at each other at the moment, they're moving closer towards the National Development Plan. And this will be the platform on which they then debate the details. And hopefully the details will be very good for South Africa Inc. People are starting to think about South Africa as a whole. And it's actually a very positive direction that we're heading in.
Is it not an issue that it's still a plan and not yet law?
It will not be an issue because it gives you a concept, it gives you a platform, it gives you a debating point. And the devil will be in the detail. That's where people might separate again. But at least they're on that same platform, and it means putting South Africa first.
Now nationalisation has been buried completely. Can you tell us about that?
It is dead and buried. In fact, Susan Shabangu said to the international audience, please don't come along to me afterwards and ask me about the N-word. I don't want to hear it. I never raised it ever. Go to those people who raised it. They are in the wilderness. Go and find them and ask them why they raised it. Don't ask me. I said over my dead body, and I still say over my dead body. It's gone. She said, look, get onto the ANC website and see what we say on there. See if you can find it. You won't find that word. So please don't, approach me on that issue, because it's a non-entity. It's gone, dead, buried.
I'm so glad to hear that. Finally, we've had proper speech on it.
Yes.
Now, outgoing Anglo Platinum CEO Cynthia Carroll was optimistic about Anglo Platinum's ability to create jobs in South Africa.
You know, that's an incredible gesture that a private sector company is engaging in. It's saying that for every retrenchment we make and for every job we actually eliminate, we are prepared to at least create another non-mining job. So, we've always known that there are too many people in platinum. It's been a long-standing inhibitor of investment. You spoke to some of the biggest companies in the world, and they said, we're very keen on platinum. But if we had to buy a platinum mine here, an existing one, our human resource numbers would change so radically that, we would take on more people than we've got now. So it is just too much to ask. So everybody knew that the numbers had to be thinned out in platinum. And, to do it in this way is really magnanimous. They're saying, look, we've got to lose these jobs. Otherwise, there are 45,000 jobs left in Amplats. Those will also go. So, if we get rid of 14,000, at least there's a bit of a chance for those 45,000 at this point, particularly if the market starts to pick up. But the market is down. We've got to get rid of 14,000. But what we will do, because we know there are major social issues, particularly in the field of housing, we've also got Zemela, we've also got the idea of building fuel cells here. There are a lot of opportunities to create non-mining jobs. And we undertake to upskill those 14,000 for non-mining jobs, hopefully in construction, maybe 6,000. But even before we retrench those 14,000, we can place something like 6,800 in the rest of Anglo-American, which is needing more people because of its expansion. The remaining people, we believe that we might even create more jobs than are out there, because housing is needing a lot of jobs. And getting involved in construction and infrastructure building can be a very good pursuit for some of these people. There might be younger people that are due for retrenchment that would really dearly like to follow a different career path. And they're offering them that career path. They're offering them their big retrenchment package plus the career path, and they'll upskill them and get them a job. So I think that's fantastic.
And at least we won't have the same situation as we've seen in the farm industry, where they gave them an increase in wages and then immediately started retrenchments.
I think that the real sad issue is in the Cape. It's different to the mining issue. If you look at a rock drill operator, he's earning 13,000 Rand a month as a cost to company. He's got medical aid, he's got pension, he's got unemployment insurance fund. And broadly speaking, he's earning 10 times more a day than what these table grape workers were getting. So they're getting 69 Rand a day. These other fellows are getting close to 690 Rand a day. I mean, it's a totally different kettle of fish. And they've got the social benefits. So, there's a huge divide between agriculture and mining, and you can see that mining is a far more lucrative pursuit.
Now, finally, Goldfield chairperson Dr. Mampela Rampele said that South African mining industry needs to change drastically. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, so we had the sisters doing it for mining. We had Susan Shabangu, then we had Cynthia Carroll, and then we had Mampela Rampele, and they all made a big impact. So the sisters were doing it for mining in South Africa, and furthest away from Cynthia Carroll and Susan Shabangu was Mampela Rampele, who is clearly going to form her own political party. That became clear, even though she wouldn't respond to the question that came from the floor and told the people to be patient. It means that she's going to launch at some stage a new political party. So she's probably furthest from Cynthia Carroll and Susan Shabangu, who were heaping praise upon one another and really created a new unity and no longer were shouting at one another as we had seen earlier with Anglo and the government before. At a further distance was Mampela Rampele, I think politically particularly, and saying, no, we've got to remold this whole system, and we've got to cluster mining, cluster it with agriculture, cluster it with industry. And it was particularly noteworthy that immediately after Mampela Rampele had spoken, along came, the entrepreneur. He's listed in Canada. His name is Robert Friedland, and he said, I will cluster. I am planning to cluster. I've got an Aladdin's cave of platinum treasure. This treasure we'll mine for a century. We'll all be dead, and this mine will still be going on. It will be mined in a fantastic way. I promise not to kill one miner. I promise to have manufacture from this platinum. And there, my Japanese colleagues are sitting there in the audience. They are the ones that are going to help us to make catalytic converters. We're going to make jewelry in the bushveld, it sounded like. And we also are going to pay higher salaries to our people. And what's more, we will call in the state mining company, African Exploration, to invite them to become part of this. So he was doing everything that the state has been asking for, including saying that when he puts in the application for his mining license, he will have the broadest black economic empower scheme that South Africa has ever seen. So,
he seems a bit too good to be true.
It's a lot of people find him too good to be true. And he's been coming to the Indaba for a long time. He's been a private company that has spoken in public up to now. But he's now a listed company in Canada, and he managed in the teeth of our platinum turmoil to raise $300 million in Canada that he was going to bring into Africa and into the Limpopo in particular, where he shouts from the rooftops that South Africa is one of the best investment destinations in the world, and South Africa has got a fantastic future. So he is full of superlatives. But, you know, one likes to hear that now and then, because of the 7,500 people in that audience, you know, you didn't hear much about South Africa. They're almost bypassing it. You know, all the presentations, well, not all of them, but a lot of them were on what they were doing in Africa. You know, what they were doing in West Africa with gold particularly. It's a popular destination now. And even in Egypt, you know, some of the people were talking about what they were doing, which one would imagine, gee, that must be a no-go destination. But the fellow was saying he's getting his gold out of there and that his share price shouldn't have fallen. So there's a big focus on Africa rather than South Africa. And Robert Friedland is also in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where he waxes lyrical about the grade of copper there. But he's very interesting to listen to. And, you know, we know he discovered Voisey's Bay and turned it into a 3 billion rand exit, 3.1 billion rand. What am I saying, rand? Dollars that he sold that for. And we know that at university he was also a friend of Steve Jobs. So, you know, he's in that sort of ilk. And I think his presentations are outstanding. I know some people sort of criticize them, but it's very pleasant to hear the depth of his presentations. And if he's talking to you about zinc, you know, he'll let you know that zinc is now used in fertilizer, and China is using in all the fertilizer that makes zinc, and this is going to have an impact on zinc mining. So you get an understanding of what is driving the dynamics. And the previous year, you know, he also gave you this idea of the medical uses of copper and how important that was and how important it could be on demand. And it's interesting, I think, to give a holistic picture of what he does there, and that's what he did again. But this time he was more detailed about what he was going to do in South Africa, and saying, look, people had said he must list in London. He's listed in Toronto. They said, take a secondary listing in London. He said, no, I'm taking a secondary listing in Johannesburg. So that was also positive.
Well, it's so nice to hear that Africa's time has indeed come.
Yes, in a lot of instances it really has. That was the main message, that you know, this was going to be the next area of growth.
Well, thank you very much, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Shannon.
That's the show for today. Join us again next time for more news and insight into what's happening in the mining world.